G'day, ZiggyD here, and in this video I want to give you guys a guide to probably the best beginner's leveling spec in ArcheAge at the moment. It's the AoE focused cultist spec. You've probably seen a few cultists running around, and the AoE focused cultist taking the different AoE skills and comboing them together has immense amounts of power when it comes to PvE grinding of mobs, questing, and it also has some capabilities to be able to defend itself in PvP situations as well. So when you're getting ganked while slaying mobs. I've had some few funny situations where I was, killing some monsters and a guy tries to rush in at, mid-cast and try to kill me, but just gets blown up by all of the AoE skills that combo together. There's some really nice sort of synergies between the different trees and the skills that you use in this, and in the end it's just about keeping yourself alive long enough to kill a big pack of mobs, a massive pack of mobs, and then burst them down super fast with AoE skills. So it's great if you want to farm certain materials, if you want to just grind mobs for XP to level, or even just for questing, because usually in questing situations you're going to be rounding up a lot of mobs and killing them anyway. It'll be like kill 12 of this mob. You'll be able to do that in like one pull and you'll be pretty much done for that quest. So it's a very fast and sort of fun way to level as well. So right now you can see I'm level 40. There's a few other things you can get level 50, and I'll list the entire skill selections down in the description below. But the primary trees we take are Occultism, and then Sorcery and Vitalism. Now you can take Vitalism and Sorcery in any sort of order you want to. I would take Vitalism before Sorcery if I had to do it again, but it's really a minor difference only for the first few levels. But these three trees come together very nice to give you a lot of damage, a lot of mana as well to be able to put out that damage, because AoE spells in the game are very expensive in general, so a lot of these passives and things will help with that. And then Vitalism gives you a little bit more AoE, but mostly much needed survivability to be able to get in there, get yourself surrounded by mobs, and then blow them to bits. So, basically, I'm just going to go through the order of skills and then talk about some of the supplementary skills. So we're going to be using Mana Stars, which is our Occultism primary spam skill, just to pull enemies. So I'll go ahead and pull just like 4 or 5 of these deers here. First thing to do, though, before we engage in combat is to cast our Insulating Lens from the Sorcery Tree. Now, this one here gives stealth detection, which is really nice when fighting in PvP zones like we are right now, and we're currently at war, so we may get PvP'd. It also gives you a massive increase in physical defense, which is essential for grinding mobs like this, and it also absorbs damage, so it works out very nicely for this. So basically, I'm just going to pull a few of these guys here. We'll just do an example pack just here. Now I'm going to cast a heal over time. I'm going to cast my magic circle there. I'm going to chain into the Vitality AoE. Going to go the crows. Going to go lightning bolt, chain lightning. Going to freeze them. And then going to finish up, if anything's still alive by this point. Often everything will be dead by this point, but you can just finish up with the Searing Rain. So I'll go through that a bit more slowly now that we've killed these guys, but that's basically how it works. And you just do that, as fast as possible, just, bouncing off the global cooldown, bouncing off each of the cooldowns of the skills. So, just to go through that slowly in order again. After you've rounded the things up, you cast a heal over time on yourself, and this is Resurgence from the Vitalism tree just here, which will heal you throughout the battle, so it's very nice to sort of pre-cast that so you'll survive the battle, because you can take a bit of damage while surrounded by mobs like that. And then we cast from the Sorcery Tree Magic Circle, which you can see down in here. Now this almost doubles my magic attack. It takes me up from 120 magic attack at the moment to, oops, wrong spell. It takes me up to, all the way up to 214, so almost doubling my magic attack there, which is a pretty significant buff. And then we move into Skewer from the Vitalism tree, so that's the AoE skill just here, and this has an impaling secondary effect, so it does damage in an AoE field, just here you can see. This has a cast time, so you kind of run away from the mobs, and while you're casting this, and then the timer for the cast time for Vitalism Skewer is going off, the mobs will start to surround you, and they'll usually surround you by the time that goes off. And then you chain that, which is it has a secondary skewer, into crows. Now, Summon Crows from the Occultism has a combo effect, you can see down the bottom there, inflicts poison on impaled targets, so that'll apply an additional dot as well. So basically, going from skewer, and then as soon as that goes off, going into crows, there'll be no global cooldown because of the cast time of that spell. Now, as soon as that is up, you then chain that into Hellspear. Now, Hellspear also has an Impale effect, and it's an instant cast, so it's pretty nice to have that cast time sort of thing at the beginning there, and that's sort of, ordering the cast times is very important. And then from there we cast Chain Lightning just here, which combos off of the Impale from Hellspear to increase the damage of Chain Lightning. And then we CC everything with Freezing Earth, which also deals damage. And then while everything is frozen, we use that freeze time to cast Searing Rain in safety, and that'll chill and freeze the enemies. And sometimes if you're fast enough, the Searing Rain, or if you have a bit of cast speed reduction on or cast speed improvement on your gear, then Searing Rain will actually combo with Freezing Earth as well, because you'll see that it inflicts chilled, and Searing Rain inflicts additional 44% additional damage on chilled targets. So the amount of combos in this is really really nice, and just the overall damage output you get. Pretty much everything you're doing is comboing with something else, and it works out really nicely. Now there's a few things you can change around while leveling. For example, you don't get Chain Lightning until much later, so in that instance I simply do this, and we just pretend Chain Lightning's not there. So we just go Skewer into Crows into the second Impale Hellspear, and then just go into that. And that seems to work pretty well as well. But otherwise, I like kind of rocking it in this order and using it that way. So the other skills we have access to, after the combat we can use Antithesis to heal. This is also a single target, and it's also great in PvP. It has a very long cast range. You can hold Alt and then cast it to cast on yourself. Even if you have an enemy selected, it'll cast on yourself and provide a heal. Now it also has another effect of dealing damage, and it deals a pretty large amount of damage. Although it has a cast time, it has an interesting effect where you can kind of select someone while they're in range, and if they like jump up on their glider to get away or something like that, then you can actually deal damage and knock them off their glider in PvP. So that's a very nice sort of PvP finisher, or just single target damage dealer, and it's good if you have to fight like a boss mob or something like that in PvE. Now another skill we have, Insulating Lens, I've already gone over. We have Mana Force. If you're ever running low on mana, you can use this. This is great against single target and in PvP as well. I use this a lot while leveling in the lower levels, and it knocks back, deals damage, and then restores mana based on the damage dealt, twice the damage dealt. So it's a great way to keep your mana up, so feel free to use that whenever you do. It also has a force push effect, so it's great when you're sailing on ships. You can knock people off your boat, or you can knock people off ledges and things like that. Now next up, in terms of passives, we take pretty much all the passives from the Occultism Tree. The first one, Enhanced Mana Recovery, to help us out with the mana regen. As I said before, AoE skills are very mana intensive. We also have Reprisal, which increases magical crit chance after receiving damage, after receiving critical damage, which happens, fairly often. Caster's Enrichment helps us restore our mana after our little combat situations. Overpowered Spell Locus increases our damage whenever we take damage, and that stacks up to 5 times very quickly when you're standing still casting all of your AoE skills, getting wailed on by mobs, so that works very nicely. Intensified Harm increases magical critical damage, so it synergizes well with the crit chance buff. I also take Efficient Sorcery, which decreases the mana cost of sorcery skills. This is pretty good once you're starting to add in like Chain Lightning and Searing Rain and things like that as well, and it helps you, it removes some of the downtime between farming mobs as well. And Painful Recharge converts 7% of damage received into mana, and since we do take a lot of damage on this character, it works very nicely. Now in terms of gearing, I highly recommend plate gear if you're mostly focusing on the PvE side of things. I'm using cloth at the moment because I'm going to be respecking in a while, and cloth works a little bit better in PvP for this sort of spec, and I've been doing a fair bit of PvP lately, and this spec can blow up in PvP, but I don't think it's great. It doesn't have the mobility and utility that I want from a fully fledged PvP spec, which is what I'm going to move into. But the reason you go plate is for that physical damage reduction. Pretty much everything that you will actively farm in PvE will be dealing physical damage to you. There are some spellcasters, but those are the sorts of things you'll just do pretty quickly for a quest and then skip over. Whereas something like these Alpine Reindeers, which are a prime farming mob for this type of spec, they just surround you and deal physical damage, so having plate is a great benefit to farming with this sort of spec. Just aim for plate with some mixture of intelligence, spirit, and stamina on it if you can, because it's going to give you life, mana regen, and magic attack. So from level 1 to 25-ish, I recommend just doing the quests and overachieving whichever ones you can overachieve. Those go very far, quickly, and they introduce you to a lot of the other elements of the game as well. But if you want to find some other mobs to that, pretty much anything will work with this spec. You don't need to pick any specific sort of mob, but try and avoid magic casters if you can. From level 26 to 32, I recommend going to Villanelle. Now you can see here on Haranya, Villanelle is just over this way, And what you're looking for is up in just this area here, the Shrine of Reunion. In this area here are a bunch of disciples. Now these guys are pretty easy to sort of round up. Just grab like a group of 5 to 8 of them or something like that, and then use your standard AoE skills that you have at the time then to AoE them down very quickly. And you'll also get a decent amount of cash doing that as well, but that experience goes very quickly in there, and they're nice and safe and fast to do. There's also a non-PvP zone, so nice and easy. From level 32 to 36, I recommend Yinsia. I had pretty good success just in this sort of area here, this little road area there. Do this when the zone is not at war, because if you're at war, there's actually an enemy spawn just here, and they'll often fly down and gank you. So when this zone is not at war, if vulnerable now, this is kind of okay. I recommend just killing, there's like these mutant mantis and ants in there, and there's actually a lot of them, so you can basically just grab one big group of like 8 to 10 there, AoE them down, move up a little bit, grab another group to 8 to 10, AoE them down, and so on and so forth, and that works very quickly just there. I got quite a few levels in there, and actually stayed probably a little bit beyond 36 in there as well. I kept going back. These guys also dropped this rare garden powder as well that sells pretty well on the auction house, at least in the alpha servers. Next up, we move over to Nuia here and go down into Hell Swamp, and we're looking just around this sort of bog area here. There's a lot of different mobs in this area, but what you're looking for is the garish flamingos, you know, the pink flamingos, and these guys are pretty easy. They just do small amounts of physical damage, and just group those up. Same thing again. Now this is another war zone as well, so try to avoid it when it's in war. Hell Swamp gets a lot of action, but you'll probably find that as long as you've got some friendlies nearby, you can probably AoE down anyone that tries to gank you. And I actually had a lot of fun farming in this zone while it was in war, so you know, if you enjoy that sort of thing, feel free to have at it. Now from like level 39-ish to 43 or 44, I recommend where I am right now in Haranya, in Rookborn Basin just here, there's the Alpine Reindeers, which we saw me farming just a moment ago. These guys are just up here where my gravesite is. I just got ganked because we are at war, and we have been at war for ages, but I've been farming still pretty well in here at war. Just be aware that there's a lot of mountains and stuff people can dive bomb you from. But there's a huge amount of these Alpine Reindeer there. Even if there's like 3 or 4 or 5 people trying to farm them, there's way more than anyone could really farm out. So I usually just pick one little area that people aren't in, and then just pull massive groups there. Those guys are pretty tough if you're sort of around level 39 like I just was. So I usually pull packs of like 4 or 5 max, but once you level up a bit more, you can pull packs of like 5 to 7. Now, one suggestion for once I sort of reach level 43 or 44, I'll probably go here into Windscour Basin, and just down here in Scarstep, this sort of area, are these Bone Hoarder detecting machines. Those look like a pretty easy choice as well, just dealing base physical damage. But if you want to select any of your own sort of mobs to farm, then just stick with things that will surround you, so they are melee and they deal physical damage. Anything like that is pretty good, especially if they don't have any CCs. If you encounter something that has a lot of like trips or knockdowns or interrupts and stuff like that, then I would avoid those, because it's going to be a pain in the butt trying to cast AoE spells while being CC'd. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the look at this spec. It's going to be a fantastic sort of spec to roll at launch if you really want to quickly level up, or if you kind of just want to, if you really are the sort of person who enjoys farming massive groups of mobs. And it's a great way to get things like nobles, coin purses. I've been getting heaps of pelts from these monsters here that I've been fighting, and you can also just get a nice amount of coins as well just from actually killing mobs, as well as some rare ingredients if you find particular mobs to farm. So it's a pretty good all-rounder spec, and I think it will be very popular with especially a lot of new players wanting to get into the game pretty easily and quickly. Basically, you just roll through your skills in the order that they are on your toolbar. It's pretty nice and easy to play. So anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.